Hi everybody, welcome. Good afternoon from sunny Derbyshire. It's been great reading these comments on here. We've got people from all over the world watching. So hello to everybody wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon. It's currently 1 p.m. in beautiful Derbyshire, and just here, hanging around the side of the screen, is the pencil sketch I'm going to do for this watercolour. Now this is going to be a woodland kind of watercolour, so it's a bit of a sort of cabin in the woods. We're going to have reflections, and I want you to bear with me through this demo, folks. It's better than watching the news. It's better than watching paint dry as well. So please do stick with me through this demonstration because we're going to enjoy this. Any questions you've got, drop them in the comments. This is live. This is happening in real time. So if you've got any questions, please do drop them in the comments. If you can't see the comments, you can register on YouTube and you can access them as well. So first thing I want to ask is, am I clear enough? Am I loud enough, folks? Someone let me know if you can hear me all right. We've got some hellos from Cambridge. We've got Columbia. We've got Yorkshire. Hellos from Yorkshire, Scarborough, Fleetwood in Lancashire. Who else is watching? Llandudno in Wales. That's a beautiful place, Llandudno. I love Llandudno. Happy memories of playing on the beach there as a child. So this, for the next however long this picture takes, this is total escapism. Of course you can watch this back at a later stage as well. It will remain on YouTube for a while. Hello from Massachusetts. I can't say it. Massachusetts. You know what I mean. Read the comments. You can see it there, folks. So hello to everybody. Hello from South Wales as well. Hello from Northants. Hello to everybody that's watching. A few things to mention. Like I say, just here we've got the sketch. So if you wanted to sort of paint along, I mean, this is a demonstration, so I'm going to be working pretty swift through this picture. But you can always watch it back. But what's great about watching these things live is it's nice and spontaneous. And I don't know how this picture is going to go. I've got no photographic reference here. It's just up here, so I'm going to work to my head. And I'm going to evolve this painting over the next however long it takes. Let me take off the sketch from the screen, so we can see what's happening there. We're going to get rid of that. And if anyone's interested in painting along with me on Sunday, just at the bottom of the screen just here is a bit of an advert for the live watercolour workshop. Loads of people have been taking part in these workshops, which has been wonderful, and it's a great way of making most of the lockdown or the isolation, whatever we're calling this thing, folks. I'm having a whale of a time doing these live workshops, so if you're interested, check out the website, folks. There's a link in the description as well. We do have a few spaces left for the Sunday workshop. Let's get close into the picture then. Enough talk and we'll start to chuck some paint on this thing as well. So, nice and close. And for those people that can see, I've actually put some masking fluid on this thing as well. Masking fluid is a liquid latex. This is a masking fluid. It's a coloured one, so you can actually see this, which is wonderful. It's a liquid latex, and what it does, it protects an area of the picture. It keeps it white. So I've popped a line of masking fluid along this kind of distant horizon around the building and across here, and that means I can keep the background separate to the foreground. This painting will evolve. It will grow on you. It will grow on you. So you need. Hello to Maria from Spain as well. Hello to everybody that's watching. So masking fluid goes on first. All the stuff I'm using is available to order from Watercolour TV, which is just here. There it is. And I'm going to get straight into this thing. So I'll talk about materials and brushes and paper and everything as we go through. I've just stuck this thing down to the board, okay, with masking tape. It's just a piece of wood board, okay. Live questions that are coming in. I tried to be part of the last workshop and couldn't sign up. I left a note at the time. Any ideas? Maybe the workshop was fully booked. We do have a limit, Joseph, on the amount of people that can book. I'll pop the link in the comments actually, because we do have a few spaces left. We're not going crazy on the amount of numbers on these live workshops. I want to keep them relatively manageable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in a link in the comments. If anyone's interested in reading about the workshop on Sunday, click that link, folks. That'll take you through to the website and you can see where it is. We do have a handful of spaces left, so if anyone's interested in booking, and there's almost 200 people watching this at the minute, which is wonderful. And yeah, so we'll talk about materials. It's a pretty decent sized piece of paper I'm using here. It's larger than quarter imperial. It's almost A3. It's a cotton paper. This is the paper that we call Matthew Palmer paper. It's cotton paper. It's ready to go. We'll talk about brushes and paints as we go through, of course, but all my palette and stuff is down here at the bottom, okay? First thing to say is I'm going to use a fairly large brush. Again, this is a demonstration, so this is going to be something that is going to be sort of whizzed through fairly quickly. The workshops that we're talking about here, it's more steady. I'll give you time to work along with me, okay? But of course you can always pause the video and you can skip it back and everything like that. So a big brush, my first job is to wet the top section down to the masking fluid. Now I put the masking fluid on before I started the demo because it needs to dry, and you're best off letting it dry naturally, because if you leave it to dry with a hairdryer it can kind of melt the fluid, so you're better off letting it dry naturally. And I'm going to pop the water on now. Because this is a cotton based paper, what's going to happen here, folks, is it's going to pretty much disappear in the paper, so just give that a bit of time. Wet it a couple of times, and it's a warm day today, so it's going to dry pretty quickly. So pop in the water and I'm going to wet it again all the way across, bringing it down. So that's the second coat of water. I'm also going to work down at the bottom as well, because I want to put some reflections of the sky, so the sky and the background are going to go in pretty quickly. So I'm going to wet it twice, and then I'm just going to have a quick look. I've got 4 studio lights shining down on me here, which means it's pretty warm, so it's drying fairly quickly. So I'm going to wet it a third time to make sure I've got plenty of water flowing. There we go. So that's got a good coverage. Now a good quality cotton paper won't go too buckly. Some papers will do this, okay? If yours is doing that, it's not a great paper. That's a sign of it's time to change the paper, let's say. Can you use masking tape? Yes, you can put masking tape across the line. This is a live question if anyone's watching this back. You can use masking tape here, but obviously being a bit cautious around the building, it's a bit tricky to get masking tape on somewhere like that. Let's then take a look in the palette. So my first colour is going to be light skin tone. Now these are all my own design of colours. So this gorgeous kind of peachy colour is light skin tone. We've got dark as well, and we'll come to that later, but I love this colour. I'm going to work that in. We're going to put some light skin tones going to come in. Got plenty of kitchen paper here as well, so light skin tones going to go in. And we're going to twist it around here. This is going to be all a nice evening warm sky, okay? Now this colour will come alive when it dries, and you'll see it's a lovely peach kind of colour. It's a gorgeous colour, I love it. Light skin tone, Matthew Palmer light skin tone. Bring this down into the water as well, horizontal in the water. There we go, that's fine for that. That's plenty of that. Clean brush again. Let's then go for something a bit more vibrant. Let's put some yellow. Now I'm going to use natural yellow light. Okay, I want to work this over here because I want to get a bit of a woodland effect on this side, okay? Now, brush stroke wise, I'm twisting. I'm basically twisting here, folks. It's a 3-finger twist. Practice in the morning before breakfast. The 3-finger twist. And it gives a lovely effect of sort of out of focus springtime sort of trees, I guess, really. I'm going to work this around here. So the masking fluid, another live question has just come through. Where did I put the masking fluid? It's along this pencil line around here and across there, okay? It's kind of hard to see is masking fluid, but this is the coloured version, which is a little bit easier to see actually. So I'm going to work that in as well. So this is the starting point of my woodland, let's say. Now I'm going to bring some of this yellow into the water over here. And don't worry about the building, that will happen later. Over there as well. So a little bit of this warmth. You can probably see a bead of water gathering. That's where the paint is resting against the fluid, you see. Beautiful. So that's that. Then what I want to do, folks, is I want to get some violet, because I'm not going to go for a blue sky this time. I want to go for probably one of my favourite colours, which is natural violet. And it's a lovely evening. It's great for bluebells. If anyone did the bluebell live workshop a few weeks ago, this is the colour we used for doing that. And it's a lovely atmospheric colour, nice for snow scenes as well. So we're going to bring some natural violet into this. I'm going to work it into the sky, coming down from the top corner. It's the same twist, okay, because I want to go for an atmospheric kind of feeling to this watercolour here, folks. So I'm going to work this in here. I'm going to work it into the background, so we're going to create mist. Now at the minute it's like a big block of colour. If anyone does painting, I know lots of you do, I'm not watching the comments too much at this point because I'm working against this thing drying, but I'll be with you very shortly, folks. If anyone's popping any questions in there, I'll answer all the questions for you, don't you worry about that. So let's pop some more of this colour over here, twisting through. This is all working nice. And this is part of the atmosphere, what I'm after achieving in this watercolour, okay? It will grow on us. Loving the sky, loving the violet, loving the skin tone. We've got the yellow. Let's go for greens now. Let's go for natural green. Now I've spent a big chunk of time developing a range of colours, and 2 of them are greens, but the difference here is these greens are made from yellow and blue pigment. So these aren't sap green or hooker's green. You can mix these colours using primary colours, and for the people that have already taken part in the live workshops, we are using just 3 colours on those. So for the people that are coming on Sunday the 19th, and I can see a few people are booking already because my phone's binging in the background. We have got a few spaces left, folks, and you will enjoy it. It's a lovely bit of escapism during this brave new crisis world that we're currently in. So more twists here. We want to start to work this thing out toward the end here. This will grow on us. Anticipation's half the fun, all that business. Let's pop some over here as well, because we want to reflect this green, of course we do. So we're going to pop horizontal brush strokes a little bit over here as well. You can smell the fear. Pop that in just there, little horizontal lines. And let's make that colour a little bit stronger as we go right down into this corner. Now, you can probably see the masking fluid doing its thing there. The pencil I use that I've just noticed, this is a 2B. It's a 2B pencil. I always use a 2B because it's just the right amount of strength in colour, but also it's not too aggressive that it's going to destroy your paper, because some pencils can be quite harsh and they can scratch your paper, and if you make a mistake and you want to rub it out, you might struggle. That's one of the downsides of using hard pencils. So a B is a softer pencil, a H is a harder pencil, okay, and that's how you're working. So a 2B is just, for me, that's the right level of sort of colour, and that's one I use pretty much all the time. So hello to people that are just joining us. Viewing's going up as we're talking, which is wonderful. I'm loving that people are enjoying this virtual stuff. It's really addictive. So please have a think about doing the virtual workshop on Sunday. You will enjoy it. All you need is 3 brushes and 3 colours, okay? Now that's working nice. I want to bring some dark into this. Okay, so we're going to go dark, so I'm adding natural grey. Now natural grey, I know some of you will know what natural grey is. It's a mix of the primary colours. You'll learn more about that during the workshop this weekend, but basically it's my ready-made shadow colour. This needs to go right down, right in this little gap just here, because that, if you think about it, that's where you're going to get all that wonderful darkness. The bottom of the trees are going to be lovely and dark, really working along this edge here with the grey. And don't be afraid to put grey in. I mean, it's always daunting using dark colours, because if you think about this, the darker you get around this building, the more depth you're going to create and the more it's going to pop out, which is exactly what I want it to do. Now down here I'm going to put some grey in the water, little hints of it, not a huge amount, but little hints of this in the water. So really twisting through, again making sure we get nice into this corner here. So getting darker corners to these trees is going to sort of frame this. We've got some tall trees to come, some pine trees later, or some kind of cedar trees, whatever we decide. I love painting spontaneous, just no preparation apart from a sketch. That's something I've evolved myself into over the years. Just going to clean that brush and soften in any hard bits I'm not completely happy with, but I'm still working in the same basic logic, the twist, the 3-finger twist, with a pretty decent sized brush. I mean, this one's a 20, but we do sell a set called the Complete Watercolour Kit, and it comes with a 14, which is perfectly fine for this. Bear in mind, this is a slightly bigger sheet of paper that I am actually using today. So I just want to make sure that it's working away. Paper's still damp, that's a good sign, that's a good sign. Let's change brushes, and let's go for one of the tree and texture brushes. Now there's 4 different ones. We've got small, medium, large, and we've also got the extra large. That was the original one, the medium size, and the medium size tree brush, originally I designed that in the late 90s, 98. So this is This has got a lot of history. This is the original and best Matthew Palmer tree and texture brush. There's lots of clones out there, but this was the original one. So that's for doing medium-sized trees. The large one for doing large trees. The extra large for doing the nice big woodlands. And the small one's not for small trees. The original name for these brushes was going to be medium tree brush, large trees, woodland brush, and seriously, we was going to call this the bush brush. But we kind of decided that was a bad idea, so we just called it a small tree brush. But there's 4 of these, but the one we're going to use is the extra large one, okay? Which is brilliant for doing woodlands. And I'm going to get a bit closer in for you now, folks, all right? So let's get nice and close in. Let's show the top of the picture here. The paper is almost dry. That is fine. This brush, it's very soft. It's good to stroke. If you're stressed, it's a good relaxation tool. It's also good for doing the old fancy dress parties. Charlie Chaplin, obviously. Let's clean the brush. All we need is a walking cane. Let's squeeze out the excess. And what we're going to do here, folks. Well, at least one person laughed, Carol. It's weird because I'm normally used to people physically watching. This is great. I love this virtual stuff. Brilliant. Okay, clean the brush, squeeze out the excess. Now what we're going to do. So I'm going to take a bit of a mixture, a little bit of a mixture of the 2 colours, which is the 2 greens, the light and the dark together. I'm going to mix these colours in here and I'm going to give it a good old stipple, okay? So we're basically mixing colours and we're stippling, okay? So we have, if we take a look at the brush actually, if I show you the brush close up, can you sort of see how you've got all these wonderful individual little prongs on the brush? It's a mixture of different hairs that make this brush very unique. So it's like having 50 or 60 brushes in one. You can see how it's gone all nice and spiky. Now how this works on the painting, let's get close in. Basically, this is the extra large tree and texture brush. You can buy these on their own, by the way. Gentle taps and it gives you those beautiful individual leaves of a tree. Now I can work more pressure to get more dense, of course. No comment. Now what I want to do there is I want to work this around. I want to bring it out towards the sky, okay? So paper is almost dry, okay? Not quite. Almost dry. Borderline dry. And we can play around with this colour. We can bring this thing right over. Stippling away. It's quite therapeutic, this, having a good old stipple on a bit of paper. Now over that side, I'm not going to touch that because I want to keep that misty. It's just here that I want to do this. Now I want to add more grey to the mix. So I'm adding more grey to the mix, making this colour nice and strong. So I'm mixing grey over the top of that green, basically. That's all I'm doing. So you're getting that lovely shadow, and I can bring some real darkness coming around here. Again, ensuring that we're getting lots of depth around the back of the building. You know, that's quite an important thing to say. We need that. That's important for the picture. And there's a reason that we're going to do all this. Now what I want to do here, folks, come back a click. I want to clean that brush out really well. So I've just got the water here. And I want to squeeze out all the excess water. It's like milking a cow. Target practice in the water pot. Not a single drip. That's impressive for a fella, especially from that distance. Clean out all the excess water. So I've basically got a damp brush, and I want to use this brush, and I want to stipple it to diffuse, to soften, to blend. Again, this is a good sign of nice paper that it lets me work over the top of this and lets me kind of blend, I suppose you could say. And it's kind of working all of this. It's creating texture. If you get nice and close in, you can sort of see the texture that we've got there. And basically, the brush is just damp, and I'm just sort of diffusing, you know, just kind of softening away a little bit of the excess colour. Loving that. So even if this was completely dry, all right, even if it was 100% dry, it wouldn't matter, because watercolour, this watercolour that I've designed, is not permanent. It doesn't permanently stay there. You can think, you know what, I'll wash a bit off, or I'll just reactivate it. Great way of working. Let's take some kind of a plastic card now, folks. I've got all sorts of plastic cards hanging around. This is just a random sort of hotel key card or store card or membership cards to various things. We could use that. Now what I want to do here is I want to basically, let's get the whole thing on, because I want to scrape off some trees in that area. So I want to use the corner of a card. It's just the right time. If yours was dry, that last stage would have reactivated it, if that makes any sense to you, which I think it does. So hopefully we can get some trees with a plastic card. Bend it at the bottom, put lots of pressure, gradually ease the pressure off as you work your way up, and we can scrape off a light tree. Now if yours is not coming off, it's because it's too dry, so you could always reactivate it like I've just said with a stipple. If yours is dark as opposed to light, it just means that your paper's a little bit damp, so you can give it a few seconds, but even dark branches will work just as well. So this is lovely, you know, and it really is giving a nice effect of the distant trees here. Almost silver birch, and if you look close at this, you can see that the paint kind of runs back in a little bit, which I absolutely love that technique. There you go. Nice bit of a scratch. It's quite satisfying, a good scratch, isn't it? You know what I mean? I'll pop some of these little bits. Working his way around. You could pop some little bits over this side at the back. If you gently pop some little bits at the back here as well. So there's just a few hints of branches and trees, and hopefully you can see how that's working quite well. Even just putting some little flicks from the base, it's lovely effect. Now people that are watching this that come to my workshops, have seen me paint over the years, you know that I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I've been teaching art since the late 90s, and I spend my week normally travelling the UK teaching workshops in person, but obviously in this brave new world these virtual ones are really working well for me and for you guys as well. And I can see that people are booking this thing while I'm talking, so if you are interested and you just want to have a go at painting, it's a 4-hour workshop. UK time, it starts at 10 AM. Here's the details, here's the website where to go to book it, the link's in the comments as well. 10 till 2 on Sunday, that's UK time, but you can re-watch it at any time. Once you've booked your space, the link gets sent to you, you can watch it back again and again. And I know these people in the comments that have joined in on the previous demonstrations, so beautiful. What I want to do here, folks, is leave that to dry for a few seconds. In fact, I'm going to use a hairdryer. But let's just take a quick look back, and while that's drying off, let me entertain you that's a famous song, by showing you this beautiful picture of Lake Garda in watercolours, which was a painting that I recently taught at some of my classes, which I'm sure some people watching this would recognise. Just imagine yourself sat there with a nice glass of Italian sparkling wine. And just while I finish off the drying, if I sort of drop the camera down, can you see just a lighthouse at the back there with the beautiful crashing waves? There you go. This is like watching paint dry, this. I'll tell you what, almost dry, folks. Here's some beach huts in Norfolk. Beautiful Norfolk on the east coast of England. There we go, that's nice and dry now, folks. Let's put the picture back here for you so we can see it's all dry. And let's just take a quick look at what we've got so far then. So we'll come back over here and we can see we've got this beautiful background with the violet and the skin tone in the sky. We've got the wet into wet background, beautiful way of working, and it's all working well. Someone's asked if I could show you what I'm doing on Sunday. Well, if you close your eyes and imagine this beautiful cottage in a gorgeous garden with flowers, beautiful tall trees at the back. That's what we're doing, folks. I love working spontaneous on these workshops. That is part of the enjoyment, and people are really loving these. Now what I've got here is the previous live workshops. This was the first one that we did, the sunset. Again, people that did do this have a private link to watch this back as much as they like. The second one was the bluebell wood here. And the one we did last weekend was this scene of Harlech Castle in Wales, all broken down step by step. If you check out my Facebook page, Matthew Palmer Artist, make sure you hit like, and you can have a look in the comments. People posted the pictures they were doing. It was such a lovely thing that people were actually working to. It was absolutely stunning, it really was, and it was a wonderful thing to do. On the screen, I'm just going to pop in an image that people were actually doing. These are examples of people's paintings from the workshop. So in a second or two, you're going to see an image appear on your screen, folks, and that is going to be of the examples of what people did on the virtual painting workshops, okay? And while I'm doing that, I'm just kind of creeping the side here. I'm going to start now to put some more detail in. I want some distant misty pine trees just kind of creeping over here, okay? So I'll take that off the screen. I think you've probably seen enough of that one. So let's get rid of that one for you. There we go. And I'm going to zoom in close to the background, folks, because I want to create some depth, some mist, some distance, and I want to make it look as though you can see miles back past these misty trees. And for this, I'm going to use a number 6 brush, a size 6 brush. This is kind of my go-to brush. I use this brush all the time. I love this brush. It really is a way of it's a nice pointy brush, this one as well. This one's a 6. It's a sable mixture brush, this one. It's a lovely one. It's manufactured by the SAA. Again, we do sell all this stuff online, folks, okay? So I'm going to use natural grey for this because I want to keep this thing misty. Now, natural grey is made from primary colours, so it's going to create nice distance and nice depth, okay? So it's all about depth and all about distance here, okay? Now I'm talking the classic kind of tall sort of trees at the back here. Different levels of grey. We're talking at least 50 shades of grey here, folks, and we're going to go straight in. I'm going to pop in some tall lines, which look a bit weird at this point, but they will grow on you, like we keep saying. Let's get a bit close in. These are straight, by the way. The board's leaning back, as you can see by the masking tape. So these are vertical lines. Misty grey, and we're going to start to pop in some sort of one side at a time on these trees. That's the best way of doing them. Keep the colour nice and transparent, folks, which means it's got plenty of water with it, alright? So I'm just going to work these in and sort of doing one side at a time. I always pop a few dots at the top of these as well, because it helps to create like a misty atmosphere. Make some taller, some shorter. It does help sometimes to turn the board on the side for doing these. Let's get closer in again. It all helps. So if I'm doing these here with the grey, keeping the colour nice and light, we can play around with the consistency of paint on this as much as we want to. So we can see I'm sort of flicking the brush outwards, one side versus the other here, and I'm attaching them, making like a very misty collection of sort of trees kind of in the distance here, and I'll keep adding more and more of these. I'm just using the grey. Now if you've not got natural grey, you can mix it from primary colours, red, yellow and blue. It's about 70% blue, okay, for these. So let's just pop some more of these in. I'm just going to use a bit of water here on the brush, and I'm just going to squidge and squidge. I want to soften even. I want to squidge. I know what squidge means. I don't know what squidge means. Is it even a real word, squidge? Is it? Now if I go even lighter, like bags of water here, and I could say pop one here, and we can have these ones disappearing off. Nice tall one, because obviously you're going to get different lengths of these. So these are going to fade in, these ones. Now I'm basically popping these in across the background here. I want to use water. Now I know you can't see that very well, but these are very pale, folks. If I turn them the right way, can you see how I've just knocked the board on the ceiling? Can you see? Put a hole in the ceiling. Can you see how these are like? The lighter ones are further away. That's what it's all about. Let's just bring this down here. It's nice to see people chatting here, folks. Keep the chat flowing. I love this. It's great. It's like, it's almost being at an actual workshop. Well, just on my own with virtual company. I love that. Virtual company is great. And as this dries off, I can add different levels of these trees. So I want to pop in another one just here, for example. So I'm just going to continue to add lighter ones. I want to pop one just over here as well, because I love these misty, very, very pale, kind of out of focus things. And you've all seen the images of misty, atmospheric pine trees, early morning. I spend a lot of time in the Lake District in the UK working, teaching painting holidays. I mean, this year hopefully they'll still be happening July, August time. We'll see what happens there, shall we? And we are used to seeing this kind of misty atmosphere of these beautiful trees. And as the paint starts to dry, you can add darker bits, you can add lighter bits, and you can really create this wonderful impression of depth and distance, working against the dry paper that we currently have. All right, which is lovely to see. So flicking and softening and just putting random brush strokes around. If I come back to some of the green that I was using earlier, it's still in the palette, you can see it there, it's still sort of here. There's a bit of a greeny grey actually, but that'll work fine. I can pop a little bit of darkness at the base here. It's going to help to give distance, random things. I've got a couple of tall trees here that I'm going to paint in as well, and for these tall trees I want to take some dark skin tone actually, but we've not used dark skin yet. We use light skin. This is the dark version. Lovely terracotta colours, very popular colours, slightly opaque these ones. If I mix it with a bit of the violet and then a bit of the grey, it's going to make it a slightly darker colour. So we get this kind of nice, kind of rich, sort of purpley brown sort of colour. And here I want to paint in, in fact I want to turn this that way. I've just knocked the ceiling again. If you ever hear a bang, it's the board on the ceiling. This is a large painting, this. So I'm going to bring this in here. Pop those lines straight up. Now I shall be reflecting these, okay? Another one here as well. And then while I'm close in, I'm just going to use the same colour to reflect, but slightly dry. Can you see I'm sort of easing this thing off? That's going to help reflections later on, okay? Now I'm just going to use a damp brush, because what I want to do is I want to slightly lighten the right side, because for me that's where I'm going to put my lights, coming in this way. Okay, I've just decided. The most common question I get asked is, where's your light coming from? Probably the most used phrase at painting demonstrations I've ever come across. Where's your light coming from? The other one is, did you wet it first? That's a good one. That's what I want to call my autobiography. Did you wet it first? Instead of 50 Shades of Grey. I think someone already got that. Lynn is asking if you can use a fine spray to spray over to reactivate it. You can. I'm not a fan of using sprays, if I'm honest with you, Lynn. And the main reason I say that is because for me, a spray just goes anywhere. I want to be more in control, so for me a damp brush is better. But you can wash off a painting completely. You can strip it completely down if you wanted to go down that route, okay? Because watercolour, it depends what watercolour it is, Lynn. Again, if you're watching this back, that's another live question that's just come through. It depends what paper and what paint you're using. Some papers stain, some papers come off easy. Some paints will stain as well, but my range of natural paints come off pretty easily. Yeah, so Jan's mentioned that she painted it afterwards. I mean, bear in mind that these are demonstrations we're doing here, folks. This is me showing you a painting develop. You can watch this back. Of course you can. You can watch it back and you can watch it back at any time. If you want to paint along with me in nice relaxation, real time, then the workshop is the key. This is a demo. Totally different thing, okay? So please bear that in mind, won't you? Let's get close into the trees. See, I can divide my teaching art career into a couple of categories. I've got demonstrations, which is this, where I visit a group and I'll stand with a screen projector and I'll do a talk and I'll paint like this, you know? Not taking into consideration that people are watching painting along. But then the biggest part of what I do is workshops, teaching groups nice and steady, step by step. That's the reason why the workshops that we do in the live workshops that you can see here, these are the ones that are really taking time, giving you time to do the picture yourself, okay? So if you're trying to keep up with this, you might find it's a bit of a struggle. But remember, you can pause this, you can rewind it, you can watch this demonstration, you can watch back. So yeah, of course you can have a go, and it's great. If you do, please do put the pictures on my Facebook page, Matthew Palmer Artist, for that one. Laura, I'm liking your comment. You should have a fan of Matthew Palmer page, well, on Facebook. Well, you've just volunteered yourself, there you go. A fan page, yeah, that'd be good. So little flicks and little sort of taps around here, and I'm doing more and more of these things, folks. Workshops and demos, treat them as separate things, keep an eye on it, and Facebook is the place where you're going to be seeing these things happening. Okay, let's turn these into trees. Okay, let's use the smallest of the tree brushes. So a minute ago I used this one, which was the XL. I'm now using the tiny one, the small tree brush, which is perfect for this. We'll get nice and close in here for this one, nice and clean with the brush. And what we're going to do here is basically use a dark green with a little bit of the grey. So natural green, which is the darker one of the two greens. Again, remember, these are mixed from green, these aren't mixed from green pigments. These are yellow, blue and red based, okay? So a nice bit of a stipple. One of the wonders of this is slow motion. Just look how you can really get that in. Bring it up. Real time slow motion, eh? Wait for it. Anticipation's half the fun. There it is, there it is. And boom. Back to normal speed. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to take this brush and we're going to do some gentle taps and create these tall kind of cedar trees. If you think this tree's got a different name, I'm sure you'll let me know. This is the working title, bush brush, but it's the small tree brush. And we're going to stipple this in here and we're going to work this in. You've all seen these nice tall trees. We'll pop a few branches to suit here as well. There you go. Let's continue to stipple this thing around here, but you can see, have a look at the contrast between this compared to the big leaf that the big brush, tree brush did. So you can see that wonderful difference. You've all seen these nice trees, and like I say, I spend a lot of time in and around the Lake District, and you get these working alongside, but they're so tall, these sort of giant trees, aren't they? They really are, and some of them of course are quite old as well. So I'm just stippling this small brush. It's just perfect for this gentle stipples of the brush. Each tap's giving you a dozen or more leaves, which is wonderful. We'll continue to build this thing up here. Put a few lower down as well. There's always a few stragglers. Focusing a bit more around the top and around the centre if you need to. And of course, if we come down to the bottom of the tree here, zoom back a touch. Got a lovely distance there. You can see right through there. Just going to use this to put some little sort of shrubs and bushes around the base here, because that's all going to help the darkness and all the nice effect of these trees. I'm working over the top of the pine trees, the misty ones here, creating a lovely edge really. And I'll take this across here as well, and we'll go a little bit higher. So I'm working into that area now. Can't go wrong with this, can you, eh? Yes, so Leonard's just another question that's come through in the comments live. Waiting on brushes coming it's taking longer to arrive. Everything's, unfortunately folks, everything's a bit slower at the minute on the postal service, but we are sending stuff out first class. But just give yourself 2 or 3 days extra. That's not me, that's the postal service at the minute, because everything's a little bit slower because of the current situation. And if you're watching this back in a couple of years, I'm sure you'll remember what we're saying. This is the virus crisis. But I promised I wasn't going to mention that, because this is escapism, folks. I'm darkening the bottom of the trees here as well, by the way. Getting plenty of darkness around there. What could possibly go wrong here? Let's just stipple those in. Clean the brush on the tissue so it's just damp. A bit like I did when I worked over this. I want to go back in and soften the trees. Stipple the trees, give them a bit of a soften, exactly like I did before. So I'm just using this brush damp here, and I'm working in and I'm softening away, and I'm basically making sure that everything blends. Okay, I'm just going to pop a bit of extra darkness over this side, because that's really important there, because if you think about this, the darker you go here, when that fluid comes off, that masking fluid, if you've just joined us, that will obviously make a difference and make that really pop forward. There we go. So a nice few stipples. Again, clean brush. I've just got the piece of tissue. I found this hanging from a tree actually. Thought I could use that on the tissue there. A few stipples. So yes, I'm planning to do regular demos. Please let me know if you want me to keep doing live demos for you folks. And for those people that are a member of Watercolour TV, which is the video on demand service, for a yearly membership fee, you're going to get exclusive live demos. And please do check out my Patreon as well. There's a link in the description. So if you want to support me on Patreon, you get a few exclusive benefits monthly, from exclusive demos and exclusive workshops and various things like that. So someone's just sent me an email asking me if I can pop the link for the workshop on Sunday in the comments. Yes, absolutely. Laura, loving the idea of selling the tissues for the aid of the NHS. You know, a shout out for my next door neighbour. I'm sure that if they're watching this, they won't mind me saying, little boy who's just recovered from a serious bit of cancer, and of course it was the NHS that looked after him. And yesterday they had a big celebration on the front of the house, and all the police and the fire service came down. There's only 5, bless him, all came down to see him. It had people dressed up as Star Wars. It was an amazing thing. So massive well done to the next door neighbour for fighting that for the past few years. So a huge well done. And of course I've got relatives that are working at the NHS. I've got a sister-in-law that is a nurse, and I've got a brother-in-law that is a technician that is servicing all of the beds and the machinery. And of course they are doing such amazing work at the minute, they really are. But another shout out, of course, is going to be to the people that are working in the supermarkets, because they are working themselves like crazy, aren't they? You know, keeping the country flowing. So shout out to anyone that is doing essential work at the minute. And of course, this evening we'll be going out on the front of the house, and we'll be having a big round of applause for everybody that works for the NHS to say thank you. My little boy's loving it, running around the garden clapping. We had fireworks last week. It was a great thing, it really was. So well done. If anyone out there is working for the NHS, well done to you. Marvellous. And I'm sure that people share that as well. Just popping a few extra little bits on here, just on these trees, just to finish off this corner before we start to work on the building, and of course into the reflections. But let's just take a moment to take a look back at this thing here. So at the minute we have a picture that's made up. We've pretty much got the background complete. If we come back a click, we can see we've got reflection, we've got a background here. Very shortly the masking is going to come off, and for this I'm going to use a masking fluid removal tool, which is this thing here. Of course we can just rub it off. If you've not got a masking fluid removal tool, you can actually purchase something out there in the world, I believe, called a mask away. I should have one hanging around somewhere. It's basically like a rubber, like a special rubber that takes the fluid off. I've not got one, but I'm just going to use my finger. Just use my finger. But of course it wants to be dry before we do that. And while it's having a few seconds to dry, we're just going to pop in a couple of little bits and bobs of detail on those trees. Now what I want to do here, folks, is I'm going to use a nice pointy brush. We've got one here called the branching detail brush. There it is. And the branching detail brush is basically a super fine tipped brush that allows you to go in and add the real fine stuff. It's like a rigger brush, but it's a rigger brush that's been beefed up a little bit because it's got this reservoir here that kind of holds the colour that feeds the tip. There it is. Get the focus back. There it is. And it's a lovely tool for, if I get really close in for you on these trees, we can use this as a way of adding just a few very fine branches. Not a huge amount, just a few. Little, it's like having a pen in your hand, but of course you can use watercolour rather than black ink. There's always a few little bits of branches that sort of hang down at the bottom of these trees. I'm sure you've all come across some of these trees at some point. So a few little bits that just, where they've dropped off. There we go, so a few little bits and bobs just hanging around, like so. Makes a difference, don't it, putting those in? Turns it into a tree all of a sudden. Lovely. And of course, you know, working around the base of this area, there's always that temptation to pop in little sort of fence posts and little bits of detail. I always like to pop something that gives a sense of scale, so like an old sort of rustic gate or something just there. Just gives a bit of detail in the picture and a bit of scale. So Anne's asking what's the colour of the tree trunks. That is dark skin tone mixed with a bit of natural grey. So you've got that wonderful dark, and of course it reflects as well. And that's the same colour I've just used here for the gate and the fence as well. So it's all part of the effect. Now I want to take off the masking fluid, folks, so I'll just sort of get the whole picture on for you so you can see what's happening here. So I'll take the fluid off, I'm just going to rub it off. It should be dry enough to do that. We'll keep switching fingers because one of the problems is that you're picking up a bit of colour on your fingers you do this. So it just kind of comes off. Now masking fluid doesn't last on your paper that long, so after a couple of hours it wants to be removed, so don't leave it on too long on here. Any bits that are left or sort of hanging around, you could use a rubber or an eraser to get rid of those little bits. So I've just got a rubber here. I'm just going to take off, but of course the danger with that is you're going to rub off some of your pencil as well, aren't you? So we'll take that out. There's always going to be little bits that you're not happy with when you take fluid off, little bits that have kind of gone through, but that's giving me a nice background working into the foreground, ready for doing the building, and of course rocks and reflections, and this for me is the best bit of the picture, so stick with us through this. I'm liking it, Lynn. Nice comment. Let's just work this out. I'm just giving it a good old rub. There you go. Nice. Common question as well is should you be removing pencil? Well, no, pencil's part of it. Pencil is part of masking fluid, so leave it on there. Don't take it off, will you? It's all part of the effect. Beautiful. Now we're going to start to do a little bit more detail very soon and start to put the building in, of course. Just a bit of a shout out to my patrons though. Carol Barnard, hello to you. Hello to Clive Dobson, hello to Marie Huston. Hello to Sue Turner Smith as well. If anyone else wants to spot me on Patreon, we get live Q&A sessions. Will happen once a month. And the first one for those people that I've mentioned is coming up very soon. Exclusive demos, discounts on products as well. Check out the link in the description as well. So that's all nice and dry. The plan of action here is to bring in some rocks here to give a base to the building, okay? But a couple of things I want to do before I get to that particular stage, okay? First of all, I just want to go for a bit of a wash on the building, okay? So I'm just going to zoom in close to the building here. I just want to put a base wash of colour down, and for this I'm pretty much just using a 6 brush, okay? Just a number 6 brush, which is just the perfect kind of all-rounder. And we've got to decide what colour to put in the roof, and I think something quite vibrant, like an orange, sort of terracotta, a bit rusty, that kind of thing. I think that would work an absolute treat. So I'm going to use some orange in there. But in the building itself, we're going to go for a bit of a sort of granite kind of colour, like an old mill or something, I guess is what we're kind of talking about here. So natural grey, not too strong. Mixing with my sandstone colour, which is called natural yellow. Now there's 2 yellows. This is natural yellow. This one here is natural yellow light, and this is the one that we're using on the workshops, the light one. Make sure you don't get those mixed up, because as you can see there's quite a difference between the two there. So I've got this kind of sandy sort of colour here. It's grey with a bit of the yellow, and at the, excuse me, at the side of this we're going to put the yellow in as well. There they are. And we'll take the grey first of all, and I'm going to drop this in. It's like a warm grey. I just want to take the white away, but I want to alternate between that and the sandstone colour, okay? So I'm going to work this in. I'm going to bring it right down, just slightly off the edge. Work underneath here, of course. I'm basically picking and mixing the colours. I notice I've left a thin line of white there. You'll see my reason for that in a second. Work this across. Leave the edge. Clean brush, give it a couple of taps on the tissue, and then just use a bit of water just to attach it into the landscape, ready for putting shadows and detail in a little bit later. You see, watercolour is transparent, so it's a great way of adding detail. Using grey to put the shadows in at a later stage is wonderful. While it's a bit damp, I'm going to pop in a very strong grey underneath the roof there. That's a very thick natural grey. Clean the brush, wipe it almost dry on that same piece of tissue. Someone can win this tissue. I'm going to use a bit of water. I'm going to soften the grey down. So basically blending the colour. So it's the shadow that's cast under the eaves. Now when that's dry, we will have a shadow down here as well. Of course we will, but it's a bit damp at the minute. But I'm just going to pop a shadow under this part of the roof as well. Just right down to here and slightly under the peak. Clean brush. A couple of taps on the tissue. So yeah, Darcy's just put a comment in the live comments just saying our baby poo. Yeah, now that's kind of the nickname of natural yellow. Baby poo, and people know it as baby poo, but it's a beautiful colour for sandstone. Perfect colour for beaches, anything like that, beaches, sandstone, beautiful for that. I reckon that's dry enough to drop in a shadow down here, so I want to turn this on the side. That's me whacking the ceiling again. Let's get the camera back in view. So if you just tuned in, I've turned the picture on the side, just in case anybody's not sure what's happening here. By the way, folks, please do hit subscribe. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because I'd love you to work along with me. We're doing weekly stuff on YouTube, and please do hit the subscribe and the notification bell as well. Then you'll get informed of all the new demos and everything that we're doing. So let's bring that across, take that right up to that piece I've just done. Paper's dry. Bring that across, 1/4 inch, a bit more, just about a centimetre, a couple of taps on tissue. Put the water here, drag that grey. Again, on the workshop on Sunday. Have I mentioned there's a workshop on Sunday, by the way? You can, it's all painted nice and steady, not in the form of a demonstration, so you can work along, you get bags of time to work, and I'm sure there's some people in the comments that can back me up on that. Let's turn this the right way again. Get the camera back into view so you can see what we've got here. And then we're going to use this brush to drag out a few lines. It's just damp the brush, just to give that impression of, you can see how it's giving that impression of a bit of stonework. Works nice, don't it? Now if you wasn't too happy with how your masking fluid went in, of course you can use the grey that I've just been using to tidy up any edges, because masking fluid's always a bit iffy, if I'm being honest, and I know that some people watching this will agree with me on that one, I'm sure you will. So you can see how that little bit of darkness goes in here, and it's a way of making things crisper. Let's put the roof in. Now as far as the roof colour is concerned, I want something a bit contrasty, so I'm going to go for a rich kind of orange. Yes, and there is, live comment, there is, I don't think I mentioned this, but there is a workshop on Sunday. Check it out. Right, natural orange. Not used it yet, but it's nice to see a contrasting colour. This is the autumnal colour. It's also the colour that I recently used on a picture here of the Lake District sunset. So if you like this kind of sunset sky, that's natural orange that's been used in there, okay? So if you like that kind of thing, it was a nice colour for the autumnal stuff as well. But it's good for terracotta. I want to mix it with a bit of dark skin, so it's not quite as vibrant, but it's basically natural orange and a bit of dark skin. I've got all of these other colours I can use if I need to dab and dip in for a little bit of kind of contrast, okay? Now, what I want to do here is turn this thing on the side. I'll get the camera in view, don't you worry. Because it's easier. When you work on an easel like I'm doing today, it's a lot easier to work by rotating the board. And I'm thinking like a sort of pan tile, almost like a rusty kind of tin sort of roof, that kind of thing. So little diagonal flicks following the angle, of course, of the roof to get that impression. I'll pop some more detail in that as it dries. But it's nice to see a bit of a red colour against the green. It looks lovely. Let's turn that back the right way, folks. Again, let me get the camera back. There's the camera back in view. Look at that. It just instantly pops. And then I'm going to pop a little bit across the top edge. Not too much, because I want to keep a bit of light in that. And a thin slither, down the back edge. And I'll pop some extra shadows and things as the picture starts to dry. But that nice bit of colour is quite effective. What we can do now, actually, is we can actually reflect the building in the water. A couple of things that will make that work. One of them is using some dry tissue. It's quite emotional, this, and some people start crying, so a bit of kitchen paper in your hands is always useful. Now I'm using a lift out brush. We've not used a lift out brush yet, and a lift out brush is what it says it is. It's basically a brush. This is the extra large one, which is the latest version. It's a lovely brush for removing paint, and it's a very crisp sort of razor edge brush that removes paint. Now for reflection of this, it'll be lovely to go in with a bit of water, and I've sketched in where the building is, and I'm washing out colour. I'm basically washing out colour here for the building, and I'll support that with shadows later on, okay, so bear with me. Take that and just wipe it out. You can see it starting to appear. It's only the starting point, but I'm actually washing out paint, so I'm removing colour. I can change direction. So I'm basically using water. I'm refreshing the brush every so often, and I'm kind of removing some of the greens. Now that's been on there a good half an hour or so. You can see it coming off. There you go. You can wipe it out. Works well. Beautiful. Now I'll support that with some dark in a second. Just a hint of reflection. So that is actually taking out colour. Now I could do that anywhere in the picture. Let's say, for example, I wanted to pop in some little fence posts and things around here, the side of the house. I could just use a bit of water on that brush, and I could just pop in some little rustic Derbyshire fence posts. What makes a fence post Derbyshire? I'm not sure. So basically just using water. and giving it a good old dab. Can you see it's removed the colour, so you can add a bit of interest. I could actually do the same thing on the base of the trees as well. If I want to pop some light into these trees, that's basically where they reach the base. I could wash off some highlights and just use tissue to wipe it off like that, so it's coming out. Now also over here on these pine trees, if I wanted to get some little highlights in some of them, maybe using the side of the brush, scrub and a tap, you can see a little bits of light it just removes. It just adds interest. I always think this, and lift out is a great technique that you don't see used much. It's not a technique that's known really, but I've been a fan of this for a while. Nice comment from Sonia saying she's learning a lot. Thank you very much. Leslie's liking a lift out brush, which always works well. So wonderful, 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 folks. Stick with us. The viewers are going up as we're going through the picture. If you just joined us, let's show you a bit of the story so far. We started off by putting this big sky in. We worked all the colours in together here. And if I've not mentioned it, there's a workshop on Sunday. Have I said that? I think I might have. Let's get close in again. And let's have a look at this building here. Just going to use the lift out brush again to pop in a little bit of highlight on the edge of this large tree, because I've stippled over the top of this. So if I work that back in, that one, if you look, is now forward, where these ones are further away, so you're creating more depth and more distance. And lift out brush always does work. It's just does its thing basically. It's a lovely thing. I shall add some work on the building, but I want to increase the reflection with this, and for this I'm going to use a piece of scrap paper. I've got just a bit of rough paper here, number 6 brush, and a bit of the dark sort of grey mix. I mean, this is kind of a mix of green and grey that we used earlier when we were doing some stipples on the tall trees, but it's quite dark and that's important. And I'm going to use this piece of paper here. I'm going to pop it level with the building, and we're going to pop some horizontal lines coming out along the edge where the rocks are going to be later. I'm going to work along this edge, increasing the width, work all the way along the edge. I've not painted the rocks in, we'll get to them, and we'll clean the brush really well, give it a couple of taps on tissue, keep the lines horizontal. So I've got a damp brush now, and I want to feather or blend away the edges. Now if I take that out, can you see it's giving the edge? So it's now going in, it's reflecting what we've got here. Can you see that? And it's the same over here as well. So I'll pop this on just here, make sure it's nicely in line, which it is. Same colour. Now I'm right-handed, this is a bit tricky to do this, so I'd normally sort of turn the board around for this, but it's okay. I'll just do this horizontal. I'm a professional, no, I can do it. Work that across here. We can bring that right down. Water, a couple of taps, and then use water to soften and blend away at the end. Take that off. Can you see how that's giving the building? It's kind of popping out, which is wonderful. I want to reflect the shadow on the building as well, but for that I just want to use grey as opposed to a greeny grey. So it's the same basic idea. So again, make sure it's in a line, which that is in a line about there. Pop little bits on the edge, living on the edge. Clean brush tissue, soften that over. So a simple way of reflecting a building, folks, and you can see how it's now capturing what's there. You can see it, can't you? I've got detail to go in. It's still a bit damp there, but we'll get to that, okay? We will get to that very shortly, don't even worry. But what I want to do now is I want to just pop in a few more ripples here and there, but hopefully you can see the reflection of the building now, and it starts to make the scene. This grey was, this greeny grey was the colour I used here. This is the colour. It was the one I used for stippling the trees over there, the tall sort of trees. We've got this kind of greeny grey here. I'm going to use that. I'm going to come over this side, and I want to do a similar thing to what we've just been working on. So we'll just zoom in here. Keep the lines horizontal for this. So Anne, live question, will this be available on YouTube to watch back or my website? As a member of Watercolour TV, you'll get access to this on a permanent basis. You can watch this back for the next few weeks on YouTube, okay, as well. So you can watch it on YouTube as well. No problem whatsoever. But as a member of Watercolour TV, you'll get a special edited version of this, let's say, that you can watch back as much as you like, so you can have a go at any time. And of course it's a brand new picture of everyone today as well, which is wonderful. So horizontal lines, working from the edge, working down into the water. So I'm working quite loosely here. I want to keep a bit of a calmness to this water, so I'm not going to go crazy with these lines, but I'm just adding a few of them. You can see that they're going in almost like scratch lines. Can you see? Trying your best to keep them as straight as you can, doesn't matter too much, but if you keep them relatively horizontal, popping some over the top of here as well, over the reflection of the building, just helps to give a surface to the water. We could also turn this board on its side for a split second, and I can drop in some depth to the water as well, so we can bring these lines coming down. I call these skid marks. I don't know why people laugh at that, but they do. These downward lines, and these can go anywhere you want to, really. So you can beat the paint. So it's the same colour, the greeny kind of grey, and you can drop these lines down. It helps to give depth to the water, and quite often this is all you need on a picture to get that lovely sense of distance and depth over here as well into the water, greeny grey. And it does help if you pinch your brush a little bit spiky like that. Makes the brush go a little bit sort of individual. Try and get the focus back there in a second. There we go. Spiky brush. So basically anywhere that you feel works, you can add a bit of depth to your picture, which works an absolute treat. Loving the little gate just here, by the way. Turn that back the right way. Just to show you another example of what I've just done there, actually. If I come back to that, you can see the picture. It really is taking shape. If we look at this picture here, the one I showed of the Lake District, when we mentioned the natural orange, you can see in this one how I've used those skid mark lines, the downward lines, to reflect these tall trees, and it just works. It's a drag that goes down, and it really does add something to the picture. It's something to practice and persevere with. And also, while we're talking about this, what a great use of lift out here, because these boats were painted in as a solid, massive colour, and that lift out brush was used to remove the bench and all those little bits of highlights. Great way of working. Really nice thing to do. So let's come back, put that away, and let's start to put some of the rocky areas in on the two sides. So if we look at the whole picture, we can see that we're kind of using, what a nice place to sit over there, look. The beach is a bit quiet at the minute. And there's a grate it on a tap, the famous grate it on a tap. That's been my most painted picture over the past few years. Pop a comment if you've painted the tit on the tap. Come on, tell me. The grate it on the tap. Now, on Watercolour TV, there is over 10 years, there's the website, over 10 years worth of tuition on there to watch back as much as you like. Laura, I'm proud of you. You need to pop the link in the comments, get everybody to pop in the group. Come on, let's keep the lockdown watercolour paint flowing. We can do this together, can't we? We shall be doing a animal demonstration probably next week on YouTube, so keep an eye on that, folks. It might not be the tit on the tap, but it'll be something. There's a kingfisher over here as well. There's a kingfisher, look. This is a nice use of natural orange as well on the bird there. So yeah, we'll certainly be doing lots and lots of different tutorials, folks. So right, okay, rocks then. Let's put some rocks in. So what I want to do is I want to bring in a plastic card again, and we're going to scrape off some colour, a bit like we did here, but we're going to use the side of the card, and we're going to scrape off some paint. So we're going to get texture, and we're going to make this thing look as though it's a rocky area. All right. Now, if you've been to one of my workshops, you've done this before. It does take a bit of practice, so it's probably worth just having a few minutes just to practice on a little scrap piece of paper. But the secret to doing this is to use strong, heavy colour. Strong colour, always going to be the secret. Hello from so hello to Mia, is it, from Vietnam? Is the sun shining there? A hummingbird, that'd be a nice thing to paint. A bee, that's a lovely thing, because of course bumblebees are out in force at the minute. So anything like that makes a lovely, lovely picture. Yeah, so Philip, there is actually a video on Watercolour TV. I'll pop the link in the description here for the people that are watching. So if anybody's a member of Watercolour TV, there is a video as part of your membership, part of your membership, and you can paint the bird on the tap. It's one of the hundreds of videos that we have exclusive to members. And if you're not sure what we're talking about, the bird on the tap, it's this wee beastie just there, look. So check out the link and you can have a look at that. There it is. One of the hundreds of paintings that is available to members of Watercolour TV. Okay, there's a kingfisher on there as well. There's a snow leopard on there. If you like, it's like snow leopards. There's animals. There's hundreds of hours worth of tuition. As a member, you get access to that, of course. Right. Anyway, sorry. Back to the painting, folks. Let's put the rocks in with the plastic card. I drifted off then into question mode, which is what it's all about. So size 10 brush is going to be a good one for this. Mixing the colour on the paper, still going to put detail. I've just had an email from someone saying, are you going to put some windows and doors? Yes, I'll get to that. You know, anticipation's half the fun, so yeah, we'll certainly get there. We will. So I want to use a bit of all sorts, folks, from the palette. Skin tones, grey is always going to be a staple colour, so nice and thick for the grey, and don't be afraid to use grey. Certainly put some green in there as well. We've got the light green, there's some green, some natural green light. Dark skin, love dark skin, beautiful colour, one of my favourites. You can get a pack of 2 skin tones as well. So we've got grey, light green and dark skin. And we're going to start off by putting the grey in, fairly definite, okay? So don't panic how dark this is, because that darkness will get lighter, which is a slightly unusual way of working in watercolours, but it's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun. So I want to use this size 10 brush. I want to bring this across here. It's quite a daunting thing to put dark paint on, but it's all part of what you want. Now as I move this across the water's edge, it wants to be almost painted in horizontal lines, okay? So this is just grey I'm using here. Don't be afraid to use the colour quite rich, quite strong. Bring this back up towards the mill or whatever building it is. Make a nice cafe, that would. Cafe in the woods. Doesn't sound as creepy as cabin in the woods, does it? I'm sure that Laura's going to pop a comment in the comment box where everybody can go straight to Facebook and you can join the group, the Palmer Isolation Painting group. I'm loving that, it's great, well done. Bring that in. Let's bring in some of the dark skin here. Working the colours together. Mixing on the paper. This dark skin's got a bit of red to it, so it really is going to pop. You can see that lovely red tinge that's coming through, but nice and strong with your colours, and honestly, don't be afraid about this. I can bring grey back into play here as well if I want to. I'm also going to bring in some of the green. I mentioned green, I've not put it in yet. There's some green. Get a bit of green in there. It looks a bit of a pig's ear when you do this, but it will all become clear. Okay, it's a big chunk of colour. This is what's important about painting, and it's important to make it clear that you need to finish off your pictures, you know, because paintings do evolve, and I'm sure that people that have painted before in any medium know what I'm talking about, don't they? Nice clean brush, wiping off the excess so the brush is almost dry. I'm just going to use a bit of water to soften the line so it's a little bit lighter where it meets the background trees. Now at the same time as doing this, I can use that brush and I can make sure that the paint is all nicely active. So basically I'm softening and one of the full lights I've got here, these big kind of studio lights that are shining down on this, is helping me because it's reflecting against the wet paper, because what is important here is that the paint is nice and fresh. Now I've got the plastic card here, folks, or I did have. It's hanging around somewhere. Bear with us. It's on the floor. Talk amongst yourselves. Normal service will continue. There we go. So plastic card. And we're going to go straight in and we're going to scrape off colour. We're taking out colour here, folks. I'm actually using an SAA membership card here. You could use your bus pass. Now if you find this is not coming off, it's obviously too dry. Don't scrape too hard and destroy your paper. The thing to do is to go in and reactivate the colour with a damp brush, like I just did a few seconds ago. I'll show you what I mean by that, because there's bound to be a few areas on this that are going to dry. But look how it makes a lovely texture. Works, don't it? You can see it. And the skin tone is actually leaving a bit of a residue behind of the red pigment, which is lovely because it's not taking it down to white, which is great. Because I'm not being too aggressive with this. But just look how that works. Like a nice rocky edge, you've got the green, it all fits in beautiful. It really works nice. Now what I want to do, folks, is any areas that are a little bit dry, I could use water on the tissue a few times. Lightly dampen those areas. So you're reactivating the paint basically, because it's watercolour, it's fugitive. And you can see now I can scrape it again. So don't think because it's not coming off, it's too dry. Just go back to it and have another go with it. Okay, it really doesn't matter. It's not a problem at all to go back at any time and just add a bit more colour. But what a lovely effect! And while I'm close into that area, I want to use some of the same grey just to put a few extra bits of horizontal reflection lines coming out from those rocks, just to give a bit extra. And also while I've got some grey, I can also sharpen the bottom of this where the masking fluid was, make sure it's nicely stuck down, and we've got a nice bit of darkness right in at the back, but it's all starting to do its thing. Now on the opposite side of the picture, if we zoom back, I want to do a similar thing over here as well. So I want to bring in some rocks and texture over this side, just the same. But here I want to taper them off so they almost go into this mist that we've got. So I want to maintain that mist. Magical card. Yes, it is a magical card, one of the comments. And Laura, looks like Laura's on the case with the Facebook group. Make sure you pop a link in the comments, Laura, for me. Let everybody get involved and we can do some... If we get enough interest, we can do some special demos just for the group, can't we? How's that? Keep the paint flowing on Facebook. Right, okay, let's do the same thing over this side then. So we'll start with the grey. We can do some Facebook Live stuff. So what we'll do here is we're going to work not quite as far, working across, working up into the rocks. There we go. Clean brush, and then we'll take the skin tone. Similar kind of thing really. Skin tone goes in. So notice I'm not going too far over. Hint of green as well is always good. Get a bit of green going in. Bit of water. Couple of taps on tissue. This is a size 10 brush, and I want to make that nice and light, almost like it's catching a bit of sun from somewhere. So I'm spreading the colour back towards the background, making sure it all nicely blends in and becomes part of it. Again, we'll use the card on it, and then using a paler version of the grey, and a touch of skin, just a little bit of skin tone, just to get a hint of colour as it disappears off behind into the distance. So it's not pure white paper, that wouldn't work, but it's just got a hint of colour, and we can add as much detail later to this as we feel the need to. Spreading the paint out, dragging it back from the edge. What could possibly go wrong, eh? And again, we'll do a similar thing over here to what we did over that side. We'll work in some of the grey, make sure the paint's all active, and then we'll bring in the reflection and the card scrape effect, just as we did on the opposite side. Put a little bit of grey just in there. Beautiful. Okay, so that's a bit damp, so I want to give that a few seconds to dry before I use the card, but I can use the grey to put the reflection in while I'm waiting for that to dry a little bit. So a little bit of reflection over this side. Keep the paint moving, keep the lines horizontal of course. Beautiful. And then we'll take the plastic card and we'll go in and we'll remove some colour. It's the corner of the card. It's certainly a technique to practice. If you've not done this before, it's a lovely effect, but I've been doing this, I've been teaching this as long as I've been painting, I think. You see lots of people do this. I think I've learned every one of this technique over the years, but it's a lovely way of creating a banking, and you can see it just appear in front of you. It's lovely. But it does take a bit of practice, you know. Well, these are all the techniques that you'll pick up the more you do it. Follow me painting again, make sure you get onto this thing. I know I keep saying it, but plug live workshop. Also get yourself a membership, a year's membership to the website, folks, because there's new stuff and exclusive stuff just for members on here as well. So there's lots happening. Let's look at that, folks. That looks lovely, don't it? You can really see the shape on there, can't you? Look how we've created a scene here. We've got shape. And how to use the card. I know a question is coming on email actually. How do we use the card? Basically what you do is you put your hand on it, you lay it flat, and you sort of bend it with your thumb and you scrape it up and over. If you just use the corner, that just puts very thin lines on, so just watch out for just using the corner. Try and go for the whole thing if you can, okay? So yeah, I mean, it's working a treat, this, it really is. I'm going to put some detail here, I'll put some branches at the top and a little bit more work in the water, but we are getting there, folks, and thanks for sticking through this. It's been lovely to work with you. We've got about 400 people watching, which is brilliant. More and more stuff to come. And some really nice techniques as well. I mean, just simple things like using a bit of card to get the reflection here, and you know, use the tree brushes for stippling and the card doing this. It just makes a scene, don't it? Very peaceful kind of picture. And hopefully this has given you the inspiration for you to get stuck into painting. So yeah, well done. Let's just zoom in close to these background trees here. So I just want to put a little bit more work into them. I feel this is looking a little bit clumsy here. So what I want to do is I want to use a number 6 brush, and I'm going to use a bit of a grey again, but I want to make it a greeny grey this time. So a bit of green and a bit of grey. I've still got those colours in the palette, to be fair, so I'm just kind of taking this kind of mixture. I'm going to turn this thing on the side actually while I do this. Just whack to the ceiling again. The fun of live broadcasting. And what we're going to do here is we're going to bring in a tree over the top of this. I feel it needs something. So a bit of a tall tree coming in, almost like a second one. Bringing both sides of this thing in. So basically it's giving me that little bit extra detail, and it's going to divide up that area. And of course I could do as many or as few as these as I wanted to. I could do like a tiny one just here as well. So this is working over the top of the grey, and it's creating more of an area, more of a separation area. I'm going to pop a little tiny one just here as well actually. That one's just off camera. Let's put the camera back. This is what I'm saying, it's part of the fun of creating a scene from scratch. And on the virtual workshops I kind of hold your hand through these, you know, so you know what you know how you're working hopefully, and you'll just enjoy it basically. That's made a big difference to that area. Yes, I'm happy with that now. I'm just going to put a bit of dark at the bottom of those. This is better than watching the news, isn't it? Or was it like watching paint dry? Turn that back round. We have a nice little sort of misty collection of trees hanging around here, which is exactly what I wanted on that picture. There you go, bring that into play. If we tilt it forward we can see it on the straight as well. I'm going to pop that a little bit extra on that side. There you go. Nice bit of atmosphere, folks. And in its own right, it's a picture by itself. If you just have this, it's a nice little watercolour, isn't it, with the reflection. Simple reflection. Where those trees are in the water, I want to reflect those just a touch. So I'm going to dilute the colour I've just used, just a little bit, and put some little horizontal lines in the water. But I don't want to see much of those because it's going into the mist. And for me, I'd say that they're too far away to worry about. But a few horizontal lines hanging around that area will help to give reflection of some of the tall trees. Hopefully you can see that kicking in. Let's get that back on view there. So I don't need to be too precise about them. But it's just a suggestion of, so if I line that one up, I mean that one's got a bit of a lean on it, which is quite nice actually. If I was to line them up in the water, I could say that that would have a slight reflection just coming in about there somewhere. Let it disappear off and it's just there, but it's not too obvious that it's there. And this is just lots of little horizontal lines. So for lots of you watching this, it's people, because I recognise some of the names in the comments, it's people that I've been teaching for a while in person at classes and workshops, and you're used to seeing me teach step by step. Well, this is the kind of thing I do at art groups, because I visit lots of art groups and do talks for groups, and this is the kind of way I'd work there. So more spontaneous, straight through picture, and it's a nice thing. So a demonstration, like I said, very different to how you would do a workshop. Very different way of working. Pop a few lines over this side as well, with this little bit. So make sure you head over to Facebook, folks, Matthew Palmer Artist. Make sure you hit like. That's where you're going to see all my bits and bobs. I'll pop a link in the comments for you. Make sure you head over there. In fact, I'll do that now. Let's just take a look back at the picture for a second. Let's just absorb the scene. Let's absorb the scene. There it is. So, yeah. It's nice for me because what I'm doing now basically is I'm walking back a couple of feet and I'm looking back at the picture, which, you know something, even someone like myself that's been painting for years, it's still a nice feeling to walk back and hopefully the picture is working. Here is coming a link for my Facebook page. Make sure you click it and hit like, please. Okay, make sure you hit like on that because I would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's all there for you to enjoy and just sort of see what's happening. Let's get close in and put some work on the building. So I'm just going to pop in a bit of a shadow actually, because I noticed the shadow is a little bit slimmer here, so I want to make sure that corner's nice and dark. So I'm just going to make sure that's got a nice bit of rich darkness in that corner just there. Just water on the brush at this point, smooth it out, not too wet, pop a little bit just there. I'm thinking like an old mill or something like that, or a farm building. So I want to make an opening. I want to make an opening to this building. So I want to pop a little bit of an L shape that goes across. So I've got this gorgeous number 6 brush here. It's got a beautiful point on it. I'm going to make sure it's nice and dark across the top and down the sides. But I'm leaving an open space at the bottom. Clean brush, give it 2 or 3 taps on tissue, and I'm just using water to drag the colour, the grey. This is a great advert for grey. I mean, look how that disappears and you can walk in that, and that's all because of using the right colour. If you was to use Payne's grey is like putting pure black on your picture, something you should never be doing, okay? Payne's grey is basically black in a tube. If you was to see a comparison between Payne's grey and natural grey, you'd see quite a striking difference. You see that one's like black and this is almost like a cold grey, but it causes depth, and that is really, really important. We're going to get some nice dark under the eaves of that apex as well. Get a lovely dark shadow under there. Also at the same time making sure that's really is quite dark in here. This is just using a good strong bit of natural grey. Let's pop in some little windows here. And a bit of a doorway. There we go. Clean brush, 3 or 4 taps. I want to soften the lines for the windows across to the right, just a touch. And also the inside of the doorway. Beautiful. I'm just going to pop in a bit of shadow down here as well, into the ground. Make sure there's a bit of shadow cast from the building. Make sure there's a bit of darkness coming in. It does help to sit it down actually if we do that. Little bits of random darkness, which is good. Beautiful. Adding a few shadows. You can see that it really just helps to ground the thing. It's quite important. Using the same grey, I'm going to pop in the ridge of this. I imagine this being like an old sort of tin, you know, sort of roof. So I'm going to put a line of grey across. Bring a few lines coming down. Clean the brush, give it a few taps, come back to that, and then work that over so it fades down. Lovely. And also, just going to pop in 1 or 2 random lines coming down. Now, this is a bit of a clumsy angle here, folks. Apologies if I'm getting in the way here, but a few lines coming down into this. Slightly dry brush. Give texture, yeah? Beautiful. I want to get the impression of a bit of a lintel or something just here, so I'm just going to pop in a bit of a negative image of like a stone sort of surround. There we go. Let's take a look inside that doorway. Let's get a bit closer in for you. Take a little look around the doorway, and what I want to do there is I want to make sure I've got the width of the wall. So I'm putting more grey in. Now it's had a few seconds to dry. But get that colour really quite strong just there. Clean brush, couple of taps, tissue, and then I'm going to soften that over. Can't go wrong, can you? You can kind of see inside that now, can't you? So little bits of interest. There's always a bit of a, on these old farm buildings, a little bit of a window for the birds to fly in, the doves, the pigeons. Put that just there, it's quite nice as well. Every little helps. Remember the orange, it's the only colour what we've used. Sorry, it's the only time we've used the orange was in the roof. But if I take another bit of that and pop in some sort of windowsills, so there's a bit of sort of a red stone or something happening there. That adds a bit of interest. If I dilute the orange down massively, natural orange, it kind of goes a bit like a sandy colour, but very, very pale. Notice the wipe on the side. I want to use that to paint some little stones, little groups of stones, just little flicks. That sounds like a girl band, Little Flicks. Do you not think? the cheap version of Little Mix. Got little tiny groupings of stones. It just adds a bit of interest to the wall, makes it look like a stone cottage or something. It's all part of the fun. I'm loving the fact that one of the comments has come through that someone's had to put headphones on to listen to this because the nursing home opposite's having a party, a street party or whatever it is. Loving that. Brilliant. Keeping the world entertained, eh? Little bits of orange flakes. That really does add something to that, don't it? And it's important to see that. It really is. Let's just pop a bit of extra texture in that roof here. So I've just picked up a bit of sort of that skin tone that's hanging around. Dark skin's the better one for that. Just puts a bit more texture in the roof there, basically. It all helps to give texture. And around the front of this, if I come back to the bush brush, the small tree and texture brush, its official title, we can paint in some bushes actually. We've got this piece of card that I used for my reflection a few minutes ago. I want to use this to stipple in some little green areas. So I've got a natural green here, look, there it is. That's the darker green, remember, a bit of a stipple going off here. Let's pop this piece of card on. It's better to use a torn edge for this actually. So if I was to pop this, let's say here, across the front of the cottage, let's get as close as we can without losing too much detail. Well, that's really zoomed in close. Practice first, of course. Play it safe. A little bit of a sort of bush or something just there. It's quite nice. It gives it a base. Make sure you wipe that off the card before you put another one in. I'm gonna pop one just down here as well. Actually, a little bit of a shrub or something just coming down in front of the building. It's going to give it a base. You see, it's put teeny little slithers of little things in. Could do a bit here as well. Across the front there. Just helps to sort of sit it down, I suppose, really. It doesn't want too much of that, of course it doesn't. Let's use a bit of grey to spot some shadows into the base of those actually. Little bits of interest around. Come back to the green if I want to and put some little extra spots and dots around. The light green, we've not used the light green much really for detail, but the light green is very thick and it's a very strong, heavy colour. You can see it there. I mean, you can see it's vibrant really. It's a lovely vibrant green. You can almost use that straight from the tube natural green light, and you can go in and, like here for example, where I've just painted in that little bush, I could stipple here with the tip of that number 6 brush, and you can see it almost expands it across like a hedgerow or something, and it makes it look as though that's running in front, you see. It's what you call over painting, and it's a lovely effect for watercolours, even though you probably wouldn't think to use this in watercolours. It's actually quite a nice technique. It just helps to give that little bit of interest to it. So it's another bit of detail that you could add if you wish. I mean, I could put a few little sort of spots and dots of that around this dark area here, look, just basically dotting the light green nice and thick against the dark green over here as well. Put a few little sort of dots and spots around, again all adding a bit of interest to the building, which is what I'm wanting to do. Let's come back to the lift out brush now, folks, just for a couple of seconds. Get some dry tissue here. So lift out brush is hanging around. There it is. It's got a bit of water on it. I want to lighten that corner. Take that out. So I'll just lighten a little bit here. I'm also going to lighten this lintel, just a touch. It's just taking a little bit of paint out, just being very gentle with that one, by the way. If we come down into the water for a minute, someone's asking where to get hold of all the materials from. So if you go into the Watercolour TV, there's the address just here. Click on the art shop and you'll see all the products. We are still shipping worldwide at the minute, no problem whatsoever. Okay, let's come down to the water here. Let's get close in and pop some reflections of some of the windows and things into this, and any other bits of tidy up I want to do with a strong bit of grey. Just want to make sure that's nice and crisp down there. Okay, so dry brush really, so on the tissue. So if you imagine this doorway reflecting, we could just pop a little, just a tiny bit of that would just show, I think. So I'm going to bring that reflection in, made up a little horizontal lines. Just a touch. Can you see it just helps to reflect it a little bit? Same for the doorway as well, but the doorway I'd probably do more of a drag like that, and the windows, pop a little hint to the windows. Make sure I'm lining the things up. I'm not going to pop any roof reflection, I think it would have disappeared by the time it gets to that stage. But a little hint of reflection, just to say it's just catching a bit of the door and just a little tiny bit of a slither on the windows there, just a touch. It all helps, and at the same time as doing this with this very rich dark grey, I can make sure that the water is nice and strong on the edge, the reflection of the water. It's all about contrast, remember. You could also, if you want to go back into the rocks at any point, you can go back in and sharpen those up a touch. Just want to make sure I've got a little bit of dark at the base of that tree there. So again, I had no idea how this painting was going to turn out until I started putting the paint on. And that's all part of the fun of this thing, folks, it really is. So just enjoy painting, and there's no better time obviously than now to work at home. It's in your hands. The time is perfect for you doing this. I'm just going to pop some bit of darkness. There's no better way than doing the virtual workshops or the Watercolour TV. It's the original and the longest standing of all of the video on demand services for art. I mean, it started in 2008, did Watercolour TV, and again I'll keep pointing here, but there's the link for it. And so there's well over 10 years worth of tutorials, all like this. If you've enjoyed watching this, you know, and this is a demo, but on there they're more step by step, so you can paint along at home. Just making sure some of these edges are a little bit darker. I get a nice dark edge here as well. Beautiful. Just coming back, putting a few little sort of flicks and things around the reflection of some of these trees. Works really well, folks, and hoping that you're enjoying this. Okay, let's come back to the tree here, the big tree that we did. Let's take a look at the whole picture. So here, happy with that, it's working well. Nice bit of a focal point in the building and the trees, great. But I want to make it a little bit darker across the top, really. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of darkness into this. Thanks for sticking with me, folks. This has been a nice adventurous project for us all to enjoy. And like Laura's mentioned in the live comments, you can watch this back on YouTube while it's there, so make sure you check it out. Make sure you hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please do that, and hit the bell notification. Let's put some darker leaves at the top. I want to use this brush again. This is the extra large one, tree brush. Clean it. We'll get a nice bit of darkness coming in. So I'm using the dark green here, natural green. I just feel like I need a bit of depth at the top of the picture, so I'm going to mix it in. Beautiful big brush this, I love it, and then give it a good old stipple, so you've got something quite spiky. Let's get close in again. So very gentle taps of darkness across the top here. So I'm working over the top of the dry paper. Now every time you go into the palette and pick up more colour, it'll change the shape of the brush, you see. So I don't want a huge amount of this, but I just want a little bit of extra. Get a few bits just coming over there. I want to dilute the colour, diluting the colour down, so that when I stipple a bit lower, it'll kind of disappear. So it's basically a weaker version of the same colour. And then I want to take my favourite brush, which of course is my branch and detail brushes. There's two of these. Again, you can get them online. Matthew Pond branch detail. This is the large. This one is the small. I'm going to use the large one here. And I want to mix up a good colour to put a few branches in. So we're going to use dark skin and grey for that, because we've used quite a bit of those colours. So using these colours here, there's the dark skin and the grey, that's going to fit in just nice. You lay the brush flat and you sort of draw it over the edge, bit of a tap on tissue, and what you've got is the belly of the brush is loaded up with colour that's going to feed that tip for quite a while actually, and it's a great way of adding some branches. Not necessarily a huge amount of branches coming in here, but I want to get some that are kind of hanging over. So I'm bringing some out into the sky. Just a few. Some of the real fine ones. Bringing a few. Painting them as they grow, which is important. So painting them in the direction that they actually flow, which is really quite an important thing to say. We can bring these in from the edge of the painting as well. And of course that's a almost identical colour to what we used for the trunks of the tall trees as well, and that's going to give us some real interest and some balance as well. Let's get one right here, look, coming in. So I've not reloaded the brush yet, and that's the great thing about the branch and detail brushes. You can keep growing and keep going with these nice fine branches. Really framing that lovely up there. Let's come down to the mass of the tree here. I just want to bring in a few, not many because I'm happy with what I've got there, but a few slightly darker branches, because obviously you get all variations of trees and things in these woodlands. And just look how gorgeous that point is. Beautiful, beautiful tip. Let's get close into that. And of course trees do grow on you. Let's bring a few bits coming up from here as well. Some nice fine, few nice fine branches coming in. Can we see how lovely those are? I brought that one up from here, look. Nice bit of spit and polish, that's what that is. What could possibly go wrong with that, eh? Bring little bits of beautiful fine branches just wafting around. Even just a few little flicks coming up from there. That is going to make a big difference to your picture, it really is. And if we take a look at that tree, that's brought to life, especially in these beautiful fine branches, and that darkness brings it forward. I'm now going to use a size 6 brush again with some of the dark green that I've just been using on its own. And I'm going to go in and just on the edges of these I'm just going to paint in a few little sort of jittery leaves coming out into the picture, working over the top of all this down here as well. Look, bringing a few, so I'm sort of just putting dark in even over these ones here. Just put a few little sort of extra dark spots, a little bit of detail. Gorgeous to see. Really makes a difference, that. Of course, if you were doing the whole picture like this, you know it'd take forever. Using the tree brush does make light work of that. But I always think that when you do this, it makes such a difference to a picture. And let's come back down to the water, because I've got one special thing I want to do down there, and that's using a sharp knife, a craft knife, to put some light in the water. So I want to use this horizontally and scratch the water. That looks gorgeous, and I've got to say, every time I do this, after all these years of doing this, it's one of those things like, oh yeah, you know, I really like that. And it puts a lovely light in water over here as well, on this side. And it is actually cutting the paper, so don't worry about this. It's all part of the effect. It's lovely to see. And of course, you can do little flowers with it as well. Zooming close to here, when I put some little flowers in these bushes, you can sort of dig and flick. So little bits of white flowers along this edge. Simple little effect, but it works lovely, you know, and it really does look quite natural. Now if we come back a little bit here, take a look at the whole picture. Let's take off the masking tape to frame it, so you get that lovely crisp white surround. It's always nice to see that, and it's always get pleasure in doing that. Make sure you pull the tape away from the picture. But look how crisp that looks, folks, when you take that masking tape off. There we go. That is a finished watercolour woodland kind of cabin in the woods kind of picture. Loads of detail, folks. Thoroughly enjoyed doing that one. Let's just have a final close-up and a little bit of a zoom back on that, so we can see that gorgeous detail that we've created. Some wonderful techniques on that picture, folks. I really, really hope you've enjoyed doing that. I've had some fun working with you. Of course I have, because I love the comments. Keep them coming. Keep checking out the virtual workshops. One last mention, get yourself booked in. There's literally a handful of spots left for this one on Sunday. That is a cottage, gardens. Not this picture. Someone's asked me. No, it's not this picture. It's a brand new picture for Sunday. A cottage garden, flowers, trees, that kind of thing. And I know you'll enjoy it, folks, so sign up for that. Check out the membership to the website. Hit subscribe to Watercolour TV. Again, big thank you to all my patrons as well. And please do head over to my Facebook page, Matthew Palmer Artist. Hit like and you'll see everything I'm up to. That is my portal to the world. Hope you're keeping safe and you're enjoying the home time, let's say, and hope you're keeping well and hope you're enjoying a bit of painting, and I will see you again for more painting. So I'll leave this live for a little while. Any questions, I want to be around for the next sort of 10 minutes or so. Please do ask any questions, and you can watch this back at any time, so thank you. Someone's just mentioned bearded chuffs. Well, I should probably paint in a bearded chuff. Yeah, you're right, actually. So in the comments there, someone said there's no birds, or as I call them, bearded chuffs. So yes, let's have a couple of chuffs in the sky, shall we? Let's pop some little birds in. Let's have the classic 3, shall we? Just brings a bit of life to it. There you go. There you go. Finishing touch. 3 birds flying around the sky. 2 of them are grey tits and one of them is a bearded chuff. Well done, folks. Let's bring this thing forward so you can see it a little bit. See the better angle of it. Because obviously it's better to paint on a slight slope, as I'm sure you know. So if you keep an eye on Watercolour TV, which is, I pointed it one last time, just there, you'll be able to access this video as much as you like. It will remain on YouTube for quite some time as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever time of day it is in the world. Any questions, please do fire away, folks. Let's have a little close-up, shall we? I look forward to seeing it. Yeah, so people are saying see you Sunday. I will see you Sunday for the live workshop, folks. So keep safe, keep well. Couple more questions that have popped up. Clive's asking what masking tape I use. Well, this is the special stuff I get in. We buy hundreds of this a year. You can get this online in the art shop. Okay, it's not framing tape, and don't get it mixed up with framing tape because that's quite strong. This is heat resistant art and craft tape. It's lovely stuff, it really is.